recruiters have the additional governance of the new Compass framework that's recently been rolled out. And therefore, they'll likely have a Singaporean talent first mindset.
So Asian bankers in Singapore and Hong Kong felt the most job insecure. Why do you think that is? Thank you very much for watching with us today. Our last guest today is eFinancialCareers' head of APAC, Ben Scuffins. How are you today, Ben?
I'm very well, thank you, Zedo. Thank you for inviting me on.
Very happy to. So, Ben, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what's Asia doing differently to the rest of the world?
Well, first of all, I think when we talk about Asia, we're predominantly talking about Hong Kong and Singapore financial services recruitment. We also need to consider that both financial centres are small job markets in the likes of London and New York, whereby Singapore is often viewed more as a private banking hub, and therefore recruiters and candidates behave accordingly. Relationships are everything. Candidates shouldn't rely purely on CVs and cover letters. They need to get in front of recruiters. They need to get in front of hiring managers. It's absolutely crucial. As part of this, recruiters like and prefer to work face-to-face. Candidates shouldn't solely rely on video. It's more difficult to build genuine relationships. In Asia, there's also a real emphasis on referrals. Asian cities maintain a much closer, more village-like feel, if you like, whereby recruiters, hiring managers, candidates are significantly more networked than their peers in Europe and the US. I think there's also considerations as well for overseas candidates as well. So therefore, overseas candidates need to make sure that they also take the trip out. And they're in front of recruiters and hiring managers. It really helps to build that relationship, and it's really appreciated again by hiring managers and recruiters. Now, this is especially more acute in Singapore, whereby recruiters have the additional governance of the new Compass framework that's recently been rolled out, and therefore they'll likely have a Singaporean talent first mindset. So again, recruiters have the additional governance of the new Compass framework that's recently been rolled out, and therefore they'll likely have a Singaporean talent first mindset. So again, being here in person is really crucial to help develop that relationship, because even though they might have that Singaporean talent first mindset, there are still some very well documented skill shortages in Singapore that need to be addressed. So there's still a level of overseas hiring that is taking place. The last thing that I'd like to point out, that again, kind of going back to the nature of the fact that both Hong Kong and Singapore are relatively small markets, recruiters and hiring managers are more likely to notice poor candidate behavior at the same time. So again, a recommendation to candidates is not to multi-apply, especially to the same organizations, because it'll get flagged and candidates will develop a poor reputation very quickly.
All right, Ben, thank you very much. The second thing I wanted to ask you is, based on our bonus expectation report, we found that people in Asia are much more pessimistic about their bonuses than pretty much every other major market. Why do you think that is?
The eFinancialCareers bonus expectation report, just for clarification, showed that expectations in Singapore to be flat year on year, but actually Hong Kong, the thinking was that it might be down as up to 6% year on year. So I think we need to ask ourselves why. And I think there are a number of different reasons. There's a fundamental lack of deal flow fees, which is resulting in budgets being missed consistently throughout 2023. There's also been swelling costs that have been widely reported, both in Hong Kong and in Singapore. And as a result, some businesses are really hurting, as I say, with the budgets consistently being missed. Having said that, it's not all doom and gloom. Junior bankers are anticipating that 24 will be a much better year than 23, given that 23 was also a challenging year for bonuses. 3 was whereby junior staff especially were affected by a reduced bonus pool.
Also, from our bonus expectations report, which is really, it's the bonus and job market expectation report, we also found that Asian bankers in Singapore and Hong Kong felt the most job insecure. Why do you think that is? And is that a good thing for anyone involved?
It's certainly an interesting dynamic. Firstly, I don't think it's ever a good thing. It's just an indicator of a real uncertain market. Just for clarity, 44% of respondents in Hong Kong felt insecure about their employment versus a whopping 46% in Singapore, which is way above the global average. And we believe there are a few market dynamics that are really pushing this sentiment. So firstly, we're currently in a very tough regional market. Budgets are consistently not being met, which is something that we've already addressed. In addition to this, in 2023, a number of the main volume financial institutions have announced major restructures, including the likes of Citi, HSBC and Standard Chartered, many of which processes are still ongoing, which again is fueling the insecurity sentiment. And then lastly, financial services in Hong Kong and Singapore has a long-standing reputation for overcutting in downturns and overhiring when the conditions are more favourable. And I believe that all of these things coming together are really driving the job insecurity numbers within Hong Kong and Singapore.
Thank you, Ben. That was our last guest for this year's Looking Forward webinar. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed making it, and we wish you all a very good 2024. Thank you.